volatile. So you run a code, you get your answers, things are done like the gradebook one that you did, assignment 3 that you did. I'm hoping your marks will be up by this weekend. I think 9 more to go. Right, so I'm working on it. Not too bad. Some students have really improved and tried. Some are still on the okay, but whatever it is, right? Anyway, but you created the workbook, you put in student numbers, you put in their marks, everything came out. But if I didn't take a printout and I shut the program, done and finished, everything is gone. Again, so the next day, if I again want to do the same thing, I again have to re-enter my marks and my student number. That's ridiculous. That's not how life works, right? You save your data in files and they're there for all time to come, unless, of course, you delete them. You can change them. You can add new records. You can delete records and so on. So in Python, again, keeping it very simple, we'll deal with two kinds of files: text files and binary files. Text files are files that are human readable. You can like open them using TextPad, Notepad, Word, whatever, but you can read them. They're human readable. Binary files, as the name suggests, our data is saved in some kind of encoded form. So you may be able to read it, but there will be control characters which will not make sense to you. So to create text files, you could open TextPad and create one. I'll just show you. I can create a text file. When a text file is created through a program, outputted, I can still read it with my human eyes. But when a binary file is created, you cannot create a binary file using any program. You will have to write a Python program to create a binary file. And then when you want to read from it, you will have to create a Python program to read from the binary file. Then you'll say, why don't we just stick to text file? Because not everything can be done with text files, right? You cannot save objects in a text file, though you don't know what objects are. But kind of thing, not everything can be saved in a text file because text is limited. You're limited to text if you kind of think of it. If you wanted to save a memory dump, for example, memory dump means whatever is in memory, zeros and ones, you wanted to save it. How would you do it, right? Then you'll use binary dumps. So they're both important. And so today's class, I'll start with first text files. I'll create a text file, show you how you open a text file in Python, how you read from a text file. On the other hand, I'll also show you how you can write to a text file. And again, keeping it very simple, I'll show you how to open and close files, how to read, write, and append data to files, right? That's for text file. And I'll give you a small example where you can save all your data to a text file for maybe importing it in another program and using it. All modules that you import, though you haven't imported a lot, you've imported sys, I think you did one sys, you did random ones. All these modules that you are importing are actually just .py files. They're nothing. They're just coded, they're code. Functions have been written and those functions have been put together into a file, related functions, .py. Then you import it, and then when you use a function out of it, you're able to use it, or a method out of it. So I'll show you how to create a .py file where you can save some data, maybe a dictionary or list, and then you can import it in another program and you have data right there and you can use it. Okay. So first I'll work with text files. And again, as I said, I'm keeping it limited for programmers or for people who have done much more. Bear with me. I can't do much more because one, time restriction, and two, it's just an introductory course. Okay, let's start. So the first thing I'll do is if you have, I mean, you can even do it in idle. It really doesn't matter. But if you have TextPad or Notepad plus, don't use Word. Just create a file, a text file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my name, some personal information. Okay, I'm going to put my office address. I'm going to put my phone number. So this is how you create a text file. It's human readable. It's just normal characters which you can read. And I'm going to save this file. And now the importance of where do you save it? Please save it in the same folder where you will create the program. And I'll tell you why in a minute, okay? Again, this is all to do with absolute and relative paths. But anyway, so for you guys, it's Wednesday. I've created a files here and I'm going to call this as personal information and save it with .text. Okay, so I've just created a file that has some data about me, and I've called it personal information. It's a normal text file. I've called it .txt. You could have called it .dat, whatever, whatever extension that you like. But I'm not using Word because Word has its own formatting and so on, and you can't read from formatted file. Control characters sometimes, right? Anyway, so that's a text file. So suppose you had a file which had text in it, and you wanted to read from it for whatever reason. Maybe you wanted to look for some strings, look for machine addresses, you're searching for something, or maybe there are some numbers and you want to add them up, whatever it is, right? But the data is already in a file so that you don't have to enter it over and over again in a program. So I should be able to open this file, read from this file, and do whatever I want. So there are no numbers in it right now, but if I add a number for whatever reason I can, I'll just add something like 75 for the heck of it. I've also added a number, okay? So there's nothing to do with whatever, but what else could I put here? Or maybe how many years I've been working at the college, right? So what is it, 2018? I started in 2001. So here, 17 years I've been working at the college. So I've put a number also. I have some, and the rest is all strings, if you kind of look at it. The phone number is also a string, but I've put a number just so that we can see, oh, how can I deal with numbers in a file? So my file is ready. Save this file. Now, I'm not aware how many of you know it, but I'm assuming that you work with computers, so you should know it. There are relative path names and there are absolute path names. So if I say something like C:\, /Windows, /users, I'm giving an absolute address, right? So if I open something like here, let me just open up a file, go to my courses, go to my Python course, go to, for example, Wednesday, go to this files. This path that you see here, or this address that you see here, is called an absolute address, right? It exactly tells you where am I. So this is called an absolute address. You can use absolute addresses when you want to use a file. So I know that here is where my file personal information.txt is sitting. And also the file that I'm creating right now, the new program that I'm writing, notice that's also sitting in textfiles.py. That's also sitting. So if you want, you can use absolute addresses when you work with files. Oh, here is where my file is sitting. Or the second option is you can use relative path names. What does relative path names mean? In relation to where my program is. So wherever this program is, textfiles.py, relative to that, where is my data file? Now, since they are in the same folder, I can just use the name of the file and it will say, oh, you are in the current directory. I could go to the parent directory and save my personal information, and then I can use the dot to go to the parent directory. So relative path names and absolute path names can be used when you open a file. Okay. An absolute address example is this, and a relative path example, suppose this file was in the parent directory. So instead of this personal information being here, suppose it was here in files. Suppose it was here. So then I could have said, so my program is here in the files directory, but I want to go one back. So if you want to go one back, you say, go to my parent directory. The double dot stands for parent. Go to my parent directory and then look for personal information.txt. This is an example of a relative path. Relative means in relation to where you are sitting. So both are possible. You can use an absolute path name, or you can use a relative path name when you say, where is my data file? Similarly, when you save a file, you can say, where do I want to save it? You can give an absolute path name. And all you have to remember in absolute path name, in Windows at least, is because there is a slash and the backslash has a meaning. You'll have to say double backslashes everywhere, or put R in front of it for saying it is a raw string. Okay. Okay. Having said that absolute path names exist and so do relative path names, I'm going to now create a Python program which is going to read from that file that I just created, the personal information file that I just created. Okay, so let's see how to do it. So I'm going to, of course, before you can read from a file, you will have to open a file. Then you will have to use a method to read the contents. And then if you want to print them out, you will have to use the print function. Okay, so basically there is a procedure. To work with a file, you will first have to open the file. right? So how do you open the file that you just want to work with? Now, with the file, you have to use the open method, right? You use the open method and it returns you a file object, right? So it returns you a file object, open the file and it returns a file object. You'll say, what is this object? You can kind of think of object as a big brother of a variable. Okay, so object has more in it than a variable. A variable can store a value, an object stores a value and methods associated with that. So how do I open a file? I can give it a logical name here. You can give it whatever you like. It really doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going to open a file and I'm going to do this. In case of any errors that I may have while I open a file, for example, the file may not exist, right? Or my path is wrong or something is wrong. So I'll put it in a try except block. Okay, so I'm going to open a file and again, you can use absolute addresses if you like. You can use relative addresses if you like. And I'm going to give it a logical name in my program. You can call it even personal information, really doesn't matter. You can call this file personal information file. I mean, I'm just calling it input file. Just gave it a name. Now, so this is a logical name. How do you open a file? You use the open method, right? Which file do you want to open? The file that I just created. So the file that I just created was called personal information.txt. Now, this is a relative path name. It will look for this file in the current directory, right? If I wanted, I could have given this whole address. I could have given this whole address here. And then it would become a absolute file name. So if I said open, I mean, just for the heck of it, I'll write it for you. This becomes an absolute file name. And since it has slashes in it, I'll put R in front of it to mean it is a raw. Take it as raw string. Otherwise, I'll have to put double slashes everywhere. So you can do it this way if you like. So you can give an absolute path name or you can use a relative path name. Now, it depends on you. It really depends not on you, on where you're saving your files. Some people like to save all their files at a place and then they'll pick up all their files from there. What am I doing? I'm putting my program and file in the same folder. So depending upon whether you want to use a relative path name or a absolute path name. So you can kind of make a note for yourself. Can use absolute path name or relative path name. If I don't say anything at all, it is assuming that personal information.txt is sitting in the same folder where this file, this py file is sitting, and it is. I've put it in the same folder, right? Now, by default, when you open a file, by default, it is opened in the read mode. That's the default for your information. So R is the default. You don't even have to give it. R for read and is the default. That's all you do. File is open for it. Is ready to read from. Okay. So that's your first step. Now it may happen that for whatever reason, I kind of misspelled it. I forgot my N. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what will happen. I don't know what kind of, so let's try this. Okay, I think I know the name of the error. It is some kind of IO error. If I don't know the name, I can always say exception because that's the parent of all exceptions. But I think file not found or something kind of error comes up. Oh, now I can't even remember the names. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this to find out what is the name of the error. And I'm going to run this. Okay, file not found error. Okay, so there are more errors. So you'll have to look up what kind of errors are associated with input and output of files. So I know what the error name is. If I didn't know it, I could always kind of just put the message and it will work. It's no big deal. But let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And let's do this. And we'll put that name of the error here. So if I have this, what would you like to print? You can say something like file path does not exist. or file or directory or file. If you kind of look at the error it gave us, it was not a bad error. No such file or directory. You can even kind of pick this up and you can put it here. And actually you can I can't remember in Python, but there is a way where you can just print the message. I think it's called exec. I forget now. You can give it a name here. I can try. You can give it a name here like ex, and then just say ex, print ex. Let me see if it works. Usually like it, oops, as just an ex. So if you give it a name, and I think, let's see if it prints it. Oh no, it didn't valid syntax. I forget. If I give it, I don't know. I'm trying to do it Java way. Let's kind of just forget about it. I don't want to waste time right now. But there should be a way. You can just pick up the message that is the default message for that particular error, and you can print it out. You don't have to print your own. And if you know that I always keep an except, a kind of an generic except, always. I always do it so that, who knows? You can say some input output error occurred. You can always get the message from the system. You can always get it. I mean, you just have to know the syntax. So here, what did I do? I opened the file and I kind of took care if there was some problem, then some IO occurred. It will say something. So I'm definitely file not found error. So now it should work fine. It will open the file for reading. Okay. Once it has opened the file for reading, what is your next step? To read from the file. Now I'll repeat. When you are using try except clauses, put all your processing here inside the try. That's the best way to do it, because you don't want to put it outside. There is an option. You can always put an else here, and you can say, oh, if everything goes well, I want to do this. That's not bad. Some people like to do it that way. But don't put it here outside. Don't put the processing here. Why? What have you done? An error occurred. You gave a message and you're still processing. So you're basically giving an error message, but you're working with wrong data. So if everything goes well, then you read the contents of the file. Now, there are two ways you can read the contents of a file in Python. There is a method called read, which reads the entire contents of the file in one go and saves it in a string variable, entire contents. Two, read lines, which kind of reads lines. What is a line? Anything that you have, like anything that you've kind of broken with a new line character. Oops, I thought I had saved it anyway. So my name was in one line, then came my office address, then came my phone number, and then I put years of experience, right? So each one of those is a line. So there are two ways of doing it. So let's read contents from the file. Read entire contents from the file. And how do you read them? Of course, you will put it in a variable. And it is a string variable for your information. You can always find the type. I'll show you how you can find the type of a variable also. Okay. And what is the name of your file? Now you will use input file throughout. You won't use the name of your file. Once you've made this connection, it's called a file handle. This is called a file handle. Once you have the file handle, now you will always work with the file handle. And when you open a file pointer, a kind of a pointer starts at the beginning. There is where I'll start reading, right? When you open a file. It's like opening a page, opening a book. Where does it start? At the beginning of the page. So of course you can see more. Okay, let's read it. As simple as that. Take my input file and read from it. Now, of course, to prove to you that this is what, and just so that you know that there is a function called type, you can always find out the type of the contents. What are the contents? What is the type of the variable? So anytime, because it's a loosely typed language, because Python is a loosely typed language, we do not know all types. So if you want to say type of contents, just for the heck of it, so that you can see it, I'll show you. So the type function will show you. And now, of course, to print out what the contents are. So let's print the contents and see what happens. There. Now, don't forget to close the file after you have processed it. It's a must. You'll say, why? What happens? One, you're releasing the file handle, you're releasing your resources. And two, it is more important when you write to a file. Why? Because when you write to a file, it's writing in the file, in the buffer in memory. When you close the file, it will take the buffer and dump it onto your hard disk. So when the buffer becomes full, it keeps dumping it on the hard disk. But maybe the last buffer was not full yet, and then you said, okay, I'm done, but you didn't close the file. It will not put the remaining contents onto the file. So closing the file is a must. So you can kind of say it is a requirement that you must never forget. Must close it. For reading, it's not a big deal, but it's just releasing the resources. But for writing, it is a big deal. And I'll show you why. If I forget to close a file, you will see that the contents are not written to the file. Let's see if this works. Right? What did I do? Open the file in the read mode. I used the read method to read the contents. I printed them out to kind of show them to you. And then I said, here, those are the contents. Of course, you can make it a little pretty. You can go something like a print statement here. I mean, this is all making it pretty. You can say something like personal information. So that number 17 will not make a lot of sense. I could have said years of experience or something, but I kind of wanted to use that number. Otherwise, 17 doesn't make any sense at all. But you should know what happens to numbers. Can I do math with them? Okay. So that will kind of just give your personal information, and then I close it. I'll show you how to do one line at a time, but let's try this. If I haven't made any syntax errors, let's try. There it is. Notice the type of your contents. It's a class string. So it's not a string variable. It is a string object. Right? Till now we've been calling them variables, but it is an object. The difference between a variable and an object is a variable just holds a value, whereas a class holds values of a certain type and the methods that you can do with that particular type. Okay, so that's the difference between a class and a normal simple variable. Okay, so using variables was procedural programming, and then we shifted to object-oriented programming, which is today's world. Everything is written as a class. Why? Because we think like it. When we think of a car, do we only think about its how it looks, its color and so on, number of doors, its make, model? No, we think much more about the car. We think, oh, we can turn right with car, we can turn left, we can do a reverse, we can go forward, we can put gas in the car, and we can clean the car. So there are different things you do with the car. So because humans think not only about data, but also what can you do with that object, we shifted from the procedural paradigm to object-oriented paradigm a couple of decades back, maybe 20, 30 years from now, right? So therefore it says class string. It doesn't say variable string, right? Which means that with this string object, you can use methods, and you've used it. You've used the length, you've used left trim, right trim, and so on. All those are methods that have been defined in the class called string. So it is a string object that you return back. So what you see here, though it looks like, oh, there are different things, that's a number and so on, but it is a string object. And we used to retrieve this 17 out of this string object. You will have to use some function and extract that 17 out of it. Right? It is a string object. So it's just not saying, oh, 17 is sitting there, I can pick it up. No, you cannot. And we haven't done a lot, but we have done some string methods. We have done right trim, right adjust, left adjust, center. We've done some few, but maybe not all of them. And maybe it won't be that easy. But anyway, here is your answer. Make sense? Okay. Now, looks perfectly fine. I could read a file. I could show you the contents. But that's not all you do with the file. You're not only interested in seeing the contents, you want to work with the file. So if I give you a file, I say, here is a file, and it has marks of all my students. Now I want you to find the maximum of it. I want you to find the minimum of it. I want you to find the average of it, and so on. Of course, you should be able to read it and do math with it. So just reading and showing is not what it is. It is reading, processing, and then showing. And that will be your next assignment and your last assignment. So you will learn how to work with files, right? So I'll make it up this weekend and I'll give it to you. I'll keep it simple again. You should be able to open a file, read from it, work with the contents of the file, and give me the result. Okay. So displaying is just not the only thing that you do with the file. It's a useless file if you can't do anything else. Now let's look at the second one. I said you can read the entire contents of the file, but I said you can also read it line by line. So which means I need a different method. But before I can do this, you will have to open the file again. Why? Because when you were reading the contents, it read everything and the file pointer moved from the beginning of the page or the file to the end. Now, if you want to read again, you have to again go to the top, right? To go to the top, there are ways of going to the top. The easiest way is open it again and it will go there. Or many languages have it, and I'm sure Python will also have it. I'm not doing anything extra, but I can look it up for you. There could be something like move file pointer to the beginning of the file. Instead of saying close the file and then open it again, you could just say move the pointer to the beginning. Some languages have that option, some don't. You'll have to close the file and open it again. But some languages, if I can remember, Visual Basic, if I remember, you could always say. C also has it.
Rewind.
Sorry?
Rewind.
Yeah, rewind, right? Rewind function takes you. So different programming languages have different options of doing it. But I think Visual Basic also you could do it. I forget now. Or maybe C#. If C has it, maybe C# also has it. But Python, I'm not so sure if there is a function or not, or if there is a way. So this, but I know the safest way is closing and opening it again. And it takes the file pointer to the beginning of the file. So I'm going to open the file again. You can open it in the same name, doesn't matter. I've closed the file. I'm going to open it again. So I'll kind of take this comment and put it here. Remember, after you read the contents, the file pointer has come to the end. So what is this file pointer? It's like a pointer, like a finger pointer, right? So I'm using these words so that you can kind of maybe understand them in a layman language. Okay, so I open the file, so the file pointer points to beginning of the file, and now I'm going to read from it again, line by line. It shouldn't be too tough. I'm going to take that contents again just so that I can do this copy and paste. I'm going to show you the contents again, but the name of the method is read lines. Right now I have, the method is called read lines. So it will read one line at a time, but how will it save it is what I want to show you. So how will it save it? Let's print the contents again. So I'm going to do this again. So two methods. So that means you can read one line at a time. So I could read my name, then my office address, then whatever my phone number, and then my years of experience, 17. So I can read one at a time. But when you read one at a time, you have to use read lines method, and let's see what it returns. Okay, so what do I get? A list. And you know how to work with this? You already know how to work with this. You know it has a length, you know that you can access each element, but look at something. Each element has been saved, but it has been saved with a backslash n because you had a backslash n at every one. So I can pick up, it's a list, I can pick it up one at a time, and notice something else. Each of them is a string. It's also a string. So now if I want to go to my 17, or if I say my file is nothing but a list of numbers, you can pick up one element at a time, change that string into a number, you know how to do that, and remove the backslash n. So how do we remove the backslash n? This is something we have to think about. Strings, converting strings into ints or floats is not a big deal. Remember we did it in first week. Int and float functions convert a string into a. But how do you remove the backslash n is something that you have to think about in this side. So I have a list. I know it is a list. And you know how to work with this. You can use a for loop, get each element of the list. Now you can do anything. You can write code to find the maximum, the minimum, the average, and all those are already available in the list, actually. Though this is now strings, they're all strings. So even a number, though it was a number, the contents of a file when you read them are strings. And they have that \n at the end of it. Of course, if I use a for loop here, so I can do it this way, like you saw, which was not very helpful, not bad, but I mean, you should be able to, now you should at week 12, you should be able to say, oh, I have it, doesn't look too neat, but I can make it neat. What will I do? I can use a for loop here, right? So instead of saying this, instead of just saying print, I can use a for loop here. I can say for I in, what was it called? Contents. So I wanted to show you how it appears. Now we know it is a list, right? You can just do a print, 1 per line. Now, when you print 1 per line, the \n will take action and it will go to a new line. But if I need to pick it at a time and read and use it, that's a little different. So I'll leave it to you to think about it. But here, I can do this. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to comment this out. And I can run this. And it looks much better. Now you'll say, why are there 2 blank lines between every line? I'll tell you why. 1, because every print statement goes to a new line. And 2, that \n is going to another new line. So you have 2 extra new. So you have, instead of 1, which should come from \n, you have 2, because print also takes you to a new line automatically. But the contents can be split like this. But keep in mind, they're still strings. They're still strings. And the \n has taken action. It's just taken action. It's just gone to a new line. And the 2 new lines, because print takes you to a new line. So the question still remains. You have a list. Printing out is no problem. But that's not all you do with the file. You have contents in the file you want to work with. So your aim will be to kind of say, oh, I have strings. I know how to convert them. But how do I remove that \n from it? It's a string. You could always right strip it and remove that extra \n, convert it into a number if they are numbers, and do your job. Right? Now it's a string, you know so many string methods. We have right strip, left strip, and you can strip anything you want. So it's not a tough job. So if I give you a file of numbers, marks of my students, or I give you, it could be as simple as just one list, or it could be a dictionary, or it could be a list. So student name, like you've done in your gradebook, student name, then a list of marks. Student name, then a list of marks. You can retrieve each one of them one at a time. You know that the first one is the name, number, the next is the list. All you do is read, figure out, spit. Read, figure out, spit. Right? So now instead of asking the username and everything, if you have a file in a format, I give you the file. Here is the file. Every file has the format of, it's a dictionary, or it's every line has 2 items. Student number, colon, marks. Student number, colon, marks. You should be able to work with. So I'll give you one last assignment now, which will be a coding assignment, because we can do a quiz on this. Because there's not much to do, open, read lines, which will be very easy. But I'll give you one last program. You'll do it. I'll give you maybe a week for it. Maybe it should be, it won't be so tough. I'm going to make it this weekend. I'll do it first and then I'll give it to you. And then that's it. You'll be done for the semester. Right? So these quizzes right now are sitting at 5% each, right? Which means I have 15% for the assignment. Or I can go 7.5, 7.5, and then 10% for the assignment, so that nobody complains. You know what I mean? Like everybody's had their flavor. If you know quizzes, do quizzes. If you know programming, do programming. And then I'll tell you the format of the final exam. Okay, I'll tell you a week before. I'm thinking, what should I do to make the students who are still attending the class get something out of the class? So they show me their expertise, whatever way they like. Okay, clear? Is this clear? So this is reading from a file. But I haven't done anything else. I've only spitted them out. The extra work but I've given you hints enough. Every element is a string. It is in a list. You can retrieve every element of the list. You can always remove that \n, convert them into numbers, and use them. Not so tough. Okay, one job done. So if a file is already available, you can read from it. But the other question, what if you were taking input from the user and you want to save it in a file? That could also happen, right? So instead of typing in everything, typing is coming, but the file is not ready, but you're writing a Python program to take input from the user and then put it in a file. That can be done. Of course it can be done. I'll open the file in the write mode and put contents in the file. Now, when you do a write in a file, there are two modes you can open in it. One, write, which will do what? If the file does not exist, we'll create a new one. If it exists, it will clean it and then start writing onto it. The second mode is append. If the file does not exist, it will create one. And if it already exists and has something in it, it will start putting it at the end. So one cleans it, one puts it at the end. That's the difference. So you already have a file, you want to add more data, use the append mode. You're just creating a new file, use the write mode. Okay. So now let us learn how to create a file. Okay. So that I'm trying to put it all in try catch because else you can write different try catches if you want. Now my next job is how do you write to a file? There are two modes for your information. W for write and A for append. Append means at end. That's how the word has kind of append. If the file does not exist, if the file you're trying to write to does not exist, it will be created. A whole path name, you can give a whole path name, the whole path name gets created. And also for your information, Python has different functions that are available. You can make a directory. You can change your current directory. You can find out how many files in my directory. Like there are so many functions that are available with files. Again, you can read the chapter if you like and kind of test it on your shell. I'm trying to do a program so that I can show you how to work with the file if you wanted to write a program. But if you wanted to know what is my current working directory, you can always go to the shell, and I think the command is pwcd or something. I can't remember, but that's what it is. So it will show you what is your current working, pcwd, something like that, right? And all this information, all this information, if you have forgotten or if you haven't even looked at it, is available in your Automate the Boring Stuff book. What chapter? Files. So I'm on files, chapter 8. So here you will see that they'll tell you a few things. So they've talked about relative paths. They've talked about here. See, you can create a directory by using the join method. So there is an OS, import OS, and you can use os.path to create a path, and it will create a path for you. The current directory, for example, here it is, get CWD, get current working directory. So it can tell you what is your current directory. So there are methods that are available. You can change the directory by using os.chdr. You can actually make directories by mkdir, something it was called mkdir. So they're talking about, see here, you can find out if your path is absolute or it is relative. It will give you a true or false. You can create directories if you want. A whole directory can be created. And I think it was called make directories. Here, you can find the size of your directory. You can list the contents of your directory. The check path validity we are doing. You can check if it exists, if it does not exist, but I've put it in a try catch block. You can always check, does the path exist or does not it exist? So please go, these are just functions, but you can always double check them to kind of, and I can use them also. For example, I can use the exist one. Instead of using the exist one, I put it in a try catch and it will catch it. But before I open a file, I can check if this path exists, then open it. Right? So as I said, there is no end to programming. It never ends. Even if you do it for years and years, you may have to again look up something to say, oh, how do I do this? So it never ends. But here there are so many here that it didn't make sense to kind of do. I couldn't do everything in class. So I said, okay, let me at least tell them how to open a file, read from it, and write to it. But there are other functions available. This will list all your directories in this particular directory. It tells you what there is. It will tell you the size of your directory if you want. I mean, there's so many options. Okay, let's come back. Where were we? Text files here. Okay, now let us learn how to write to a file, which is very obvious. You will read something from the user, want to save in a file. You will need to say hard-coded data, which is of course stupid, because if it was hard-coded data, you would just open a text editor and type it yourself, right? But you can write a program to write something to a file. It creates one. Keep in mind, what happens in W? Previous contents are lost. If the file exists. And what happens in A? Data is added to end of file. That's the difference. Okay. So if the file does not exist, it creates one. If the file exists, what will W do? W will erase the previous contents and then start writing fresh, and A will add the data to the end of the file. Okay, now let's try to do it. Of course, if I want to create a file, I'll have to open it first. I'll have to give it a name, and you can give an absolute name, and it will create, if it doesn't exist, it will create the directories and everything for you. Okay, so I mean, it could do whatever, but I'm just kind of again putting it in the same directory. And so I'm going to create, again, that's the file handle. Output file is called the file handle. I'm going to open a file. Now you can call it whatever you like. I'm just going to call it student names. I'm going to keep the names of my students in it. This is the file that will get created. The name of a file can have blanks. Keep in mind, this cannot have a blank. This is a name of names in Python. How does it work? Letters, digits, and underscore were allowed. How did it go? Good. This time it was okay to kind of set it up and everything. There was only one true false, but everything was okay? Yeah, everything was good to set. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Where were we? Okay, sorry. So here, so the file name can have blanks in it. It's just a normal file name. This is your logical file name, and then you follow the rules that you use in Python. Lowercase, uppercase, we use Java naming, the camel case naming convention. We can use underscores if we like, but that's all that is allowed. Letters, digits, and underscore. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to create this file. If you want to create it in the write mode, give W. If you want to create it in the append mode, give A. Same thing. I mean, if it is the first time, as I said, if it does not exist, it will just get created. Okay. Now, what is your aim? You want to read input from the user, and you want to save it in the file. Now, I don't want to save hard-coded data in the file. So what I'm going to do is, you've done this many a times. I'm going to take a variable called name. I'll give you a break, okay? I know I have to give you a break. I'll use a while loop. And I'll keep taking this, I'll keep taking these names from the user, and I'll keep putting them in the file. You could be taking their name and marks. So name, marks, name, marks, name, marks. So your file could have name, marks. So you have to know the format of the file before you work with the file. That's a must. So if I say, oh, here is the file, you'll have to first open the file in TextPad or whatever, read the contents. Oh, this is what she's doing. She has the name of the student, the average mark, the name of the student, the list of marks, and so on. So of course, you will have to know the format of the file, which I'll give you. Here is the format of the file. I'll give the file to you. Your aim would be to read and do something. Okay? Because I've already tested you on all these while loops, which you're still okay with, but here I'm writing it for you. So what am I going to take? I'm going to take the name from the user. I'm going to say input. Please enter name of student. And I always have to say enter end to quit input. Is that a good enough message? Right, so it says, please enter name of student. Spelling is wrong. Please enter the name of the student. Grammatically should be correct. And I say enter end to quit input. Right, so to quit or to quit input, whatever you like. To stop input or to quit. because nobody's name is end. I haven't heard of anybody's name as being end. So I convert it into lower so that whatever you give, I always convert it into lower and check it against end. Otherwise, whatever name you give me, lowercase, uppercase, whatever, I'll just save it as is. Right? Now, you take this name and there is not much to do. I could use a regular expression on it now if I wanted, that the name has to be, the name can only consist of letters, digits, underscore, blank, and so on, which you just did, I think, for my name, Anju Chawla, but you could use regular expressions here. And then now what do I want to do? I want to write this name where? In my file. Okay, so what is the name of your file? Output file. What is the name of the method? Write. Read and write. Right? If it was, so you always use write. But if you want to append, you have to change the mode here. You give W for write and you give A for append. But the method's name is write. What do you want to write? Your name. And I'll show you something and then I'll change it. Okay? Done? So I read the name, I write it. I read the name, I write it. Unless the user gives it, I write it. Okay. Now let's see if the file gets created. Let's see if the file gets created. I could have opened it here and read it and again show it to you. But let's see if it gets created. Let's save this. Let's run it. Oops, invalid syntax. What did I miss? Oh, the semicolon outside. The quotes outside. Here. Make sense? Okay, here. Oh, spelling of enter is wrong. Okay, so I'm going to give my name. What's happening here, which should not happen? Why is it saying list? Why? How come that name came? Okay, I'm going to see. I may be wrong in the spelling, so please, Hayden, pardon me if the spelling is wrong. Is it a Y? I don't know everybody's name. I know Harsh's name because he came to me. Shrishti, I think, right? Again, Shrishti, pardon me if the spelling is wrong. And let's put an end. I don't know from where that word list came. There's no output. That's okay. I didn't tell it to print anything. I said create a file for me. So let's see, did I get that file created? How will you see it? Go back to this. So since I didn't give any path name, it will be created right here in the same directory. Let's open it. It's a text. It's a .text file. I can open it using TextPad. Uh-oh, empty file. Why? Now comes the big question. Good. I didn't close my file. So nothing from the buffer went onto the file. So it's good that I forgot it. And here it is a must. In reading, it is not a must because reading is just reading. But here it is a must. I forgot to close the file. Don't forget to close the file. So nothing came to the file. Otherwise, the buffer will not be shifted onto the external storage. Right? Do not forget. Else, contents of buffer will not be saved. Yeah, won't be saved to external storage, to hard disk. That proves it, that it is a must. Now in the reading, it wasn't a must, but here it is. So what is the name of your file? Oh, where was I? Tab. Okay, so name of the file was output file, so close it. Do a normal close. Right? I'll show you, we can append afterwards, but I'll show you. Let's do this. And my spelling of enter was wrong, so let's double check that. Why did I have that list coming up? What did I do? Strange, right? I don't know what it was, but let's check it again. Unexpected indent. Okay, so somewhere my indent is incorrect. Oh, one back. And you know what? Just so that it looks a little neater, I'm going to close my shell and then run it. Okay, so Anju. It's okay now. I don't know what I did. Like, how did that word list come up? I have no clue. En, and notice I'm trying to give grammatically and in some IO error occurred. So I don't know what error, but some IO error occurred. Now, what IO error could have occurred is the biggest problem. What did I forget? The close is okay. Okay, let's see. Did I close it? Oh, did I close it just after the first one? Oh, thank you, Hayden. Good eyes. That's what happened. I closed the file and I'm trying to write to it. So of course it will give me some eyewear. I'm glad I have eyes looking at my code. Then you can find out my errors quickly. And that's the whole thing about it. You may not always get perfect things at the first time. But anyway. Okay, so let's try again. So, and if you want to save it properly, you can change the case and whatever. So let's try Hayden's name right this time. Let's try Harsh's name. Let's put an end. And it doesn't matter how you put the end, okay? Because remember, I've converted into lower and compared it against end. File should be created. Let's go back this time. I did a close this time. It will open it in Notepad if I double click on it, but I want to just make it look a little neat. But see what's happened. All one after another. I said right, it wrote it. So now if I want to put them on different lines, what should I be doing? I should be putting the \n by myself. So put it. What's the big deal? We know how to put it. There. Now it will come on different lines. Now, since I'm here, let me do this also for you. Let's append some names. And just for the heck of it, because I'm not going to ask again. I'll open it again. But this time, notice, how will I open it? Do I want to open it in the write mode? No, I want to open it in the append mode. And I want to write some names. So let's write some names. And this is hard coding, but of course you could, if you run the program again or whatever. So it's just safe if you had opened it in the append mode first, so that every time you run the program, it automatically appends. But I'm just showing you the difference between the two. So let's write somebody's name on it. And of course, the name will not do. Let's give something like, I don't know. Oh God. Wrong place. Don't know your full name, but I'll just put one. Let's put another one. Oh, Jewel is here. I'm right with your name, Jewel. Am I saying Ian, person next to you? Joel. Yeah, Joel. Okay, so not Joel, I said Joel. Okay, so I know his name. There, Joel Smith, I think, right? Okay, so you don't pronounce the E like an E. It's not Joel, right? Oh, it's just Joel. Okay, good to know that, because Joel would be Jole. But that's what it is, but that's fine. Okay, so I've appended two names. And again, let me not forget to close it.
The other way of pronouncing it is two L's and an extra E at the end.
Come again?
The other way you said to pronounce it is spelled Joelle.
Oh, that's a Joel.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, so that's a Joel because it has an LE, but this is still a Joel, but this is just Joel then. Oh, well, okay. I'll learn, live and learn. Yeah, English is a strange language. Anyway, here. So let's see if it works. Okay. So let's see. And I'm going to give some names. Just maybe two names are good this time. And my file should be created and appended to. And there it is. So I put in, oh, end is getting added. So something wrong in the syntax, no, in the program, in the logic. So what should I do? Before I write it, here, if name dot lower, because that's what I'm kind of, no. What if I do, yep, that's okay. See, so if you find something, you have to find a solution for it. One solution could have been I read before the while and then I add it. But I find this easier, then you don't have to worry. You start with something that will say, oh, the loop will always run. So I start with begin or anything. Then I read and then I write. So there are two ways. I don't need this if here. If I Once I read the name outside and then I say while load is not equal to end. So your first end will stop, right? But and then I read at the end. So this reading goes at the end. Here I begin with a begin, which could be even A. It's not anything that's not an end. You could have begin with an empty one also, right? And then it reads. So I have to put an if statement so that I don't add end to it. So when you look at something, you can write the logic in a couple of ways. Now I'm getting lazy, right? You can write it in a couple of ways, but then you just have to see that you're taking care of. Let's see. Oh, it's not bad in Notepad also. So there's the A, B. The end is no longer there, and then there is Abu and Joe. Make sense? So you can read from files. You can write to files. Now once the file is ready, I can again do it. I can open it in the read mode and split it out. But we already know how to. Okay? We'll take a break. Okay? We've done reading and writing and appending to text files. But I'll show you something else also. I mean, this was really simple, but I'll show you how you can create a .py file and then use it as a module somewhere else. And then the binary files, which are not useful. I don't say not useful, but not used as much. No, I shouldn't even say that. They are used. NOEL? See? So Noel is an EL, but Joel is not an EL. I always get confused with these names. Anyway, see, he caught you. So it's 9:45. We'll take a 15-minute break or so, and then come back and try to complete 2 more things. I want to do 2 more things, okay? The E should be there, right? Shouldn't it be Joel, like in Noel? But anyway, you guys know better. It's your name.
Disappointed. I don't know what you
forgot to give this to you guys.
Yes, thank you.
This printing it off was very, very, very hard, so the format might be a little bad. But
Oh, this is your.
It's so hard. I tried Notepad.
That's okay, but there was not much you. Yeah, as
It's
you know.
when I printed it from Notepad, it came up all spacey and to get.
I've already marked it, so it's okay. Thank you.
What else does an I say?
Yes.
But it also actually makes sense when you put it.
Okay, ignore the totals. Totals have nothing to do with your marks. Okay, the rating has totals. It just keeps adding your marks, and it keeps adding out of how much it is. So this is not your percentage. Don't even pay attention. At the end of the semester, assignment 1 will be given 5% weightage. Second will be given 10%. Third will be given 20%. So and I use a formula, mathematical formula, and it will give you your fund. Don't work on totals. Okay? Don't worry about it. As long as you see your marks, you're good. Okay? And I can't do that right now because I'm stuck between what weightages should I give to different quizzes and assignments. Otherwise, you should be seeing a running total. Once I teach this course once, next time I'll be in a better situation to begin with it. Like maybe your other teachers give you a kind of an idea where you stand. Because I don't know. Like I did quizzes thinking people will do it really well. It's a 50-50 again. So I'm thinking, oh, instead of giving it 10% each, maybe I should just give it 7.5% and give another program. You know what I mean? So total has nothing to do with it. Don't worry. But at least it tells you, oh, how have I done? It tells you how much marks you have in the sense, oh, my assignment 1, I did 50%. Assignment 2 was 60%. Kind of that picture will tell you whether you are passing the course or not. Okay?
Obviously not. Was that bad? Just that. What's their story? Chart. Show me a chart on a little graph in the middle day. This is 27 years low. Do like a 5. Ooh. So this is not even that. This is just a trend. Yeah, Amazon is going to turn. But look at the price of their shares. So my question for you. I was surprised they haven't done a stock split. Because that's reaching the point of being unaffordable for a typical investor. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's more like investors typically get mental blocks when it comes to expensive shares. Yeah, then, yeah, but any high-level investors can, right? I mean, your typical investor will buy like 100 shares that cost $2,000, not realizing that it's got to be the same risk assessment as if you just bought one share. It's just a perception. That only applies to low-level investment. Not like you. Yeah. Yeah. Me too. And that was not years ago. I did not believe in Amazon because if you look at other big companies, like eBay and whatnot, that fizzled a little bit. But I mean, Amazon is a lot more than investing.
The only thing I thought from is this back. No other things I can find it.
Yeah, but like, we're not good examples of that. My wife is constantly buying things on Amazon. We're friends. These are non-technical people. Are buying like we tend to be in our own little bubbles, right? But people are buying Amazon on Amazon. So, not that much because overall, I don't find it to always be the cheapest. No, I don't even think they offer those kinds of supplies. Well, I have it then. Yeah, I know. That's fairly recent. Whole Foods is expensive though. So once again, it's a case of like, I'm not really into that. The only time that I had like any business dealing with Amazon, for example, and I never really did, was when I was talking to
bagels. This make case disgusting. It tastes better. It's free.
Yeah,
So it's a free kind of disgusting.
Yes. And we used to fight with our UPS rep over being able to get tractor trailers when they're doing like shipments. Because the dual roll up for Subway, there's normally like 4 tractor trailer loads filled, floor to ceiling with boxes that are shipping out. And Amazon, well, no longer has a strong contract with UPS, but before they did, they demanded 24 tractor trailers at all times at their warehouse in Mississauga. So they actually negatively affected UPS's logistical supply of trailers. And they're paying like,
No, it's disgusting.
I'm
I'm not gonna lie to
A
you.
package shipping their cost. $4.
It tastes like
No, it's really cheap.
what?
Because they were able to leverage, volumes. But UPS actually turned out to be losing money because the cost of sales tried to renegotiate. And then
Oh, it tastes really good.
And then UPS didn't bother doing it.
Yeah.
Which ice cream are you having today?
Actually, well, I'm trying to save money, so they had bagels downstairs and it took a bite into it, and
I just thought
it's
that was interesting.
you get what you pay for, and I paid nothing for it, so the quality isn't that good.
It's like, oh, it's for shipping, it says like $20 shipping or something. Or you get an item that seems really cheap, right? But then it
Who
has
puts
like
tomatoes on a
seemingly
bagel?
shipping cost. That's just
I put toasted
their
potato with
way
butter
of
and cream cheese.
equalizing the costs. Because the shipping is really cheap.
I thought it was cream cheese.
So even for us, like it only cost us, like if we're shipping something to the GTA.
I mean, if you put the tomato, the
shipping
bacon,
boxes for Subway,
it could be like,
32
what is it called?
Inches, like 24 inches, like 3 inches. So it's like a big pizza box, basically, right?
Cheese dreams. Have you ever had a cheese
Like
dream?
that only cost us
Mayo,
$5.
cheese,
The shipping
uh,
to GTA.
tomato, and bacon on a
I mean,
on a hamburger bun.
like it's
Toasted.
It varies quite a bit.
So good.
In relation to where everything is. So you can still ship
Cheese
like
dreams.
slightly the price. It might be like, $5.89. Like it's cents. It's like pennies for different locations. Berry was more like $6, 10 cents. It was extra 30 cents in that package for a couple locations in Berry, including the Georgian College one. Yeah, right.
I can see that.
So, yeah, I know a lot of the.
Well, I was on the phone with the city of Barrie yesterday, and they were telling me how they
It's just interesting how they look at shipping tracks and what to buy, what their costs are, and the quality.
just too happy with them.
But. Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I started researching for drone technology was because they felt like companies like UPS and Post and FedEx weren't giving them good enough rates, even at those rates. So they were trying to automate
For what?
drones and whatnot. That costs really low.
So in the future, we lost.
Oh,
No, because they're specifically doing it
Yep.
in such a way.
that's what I told my mom. A lot of the jobs require a vehicle, and not a lot of people have one.
It all depends on how you look at it. Sometimes you have to look at it as more like.
I can drive, I just don't have reliable access to a vehicle. I may have a car, I just can't always use it because it's shared, which my
Well, that's
grandmother.
part of the joy.
So sometimes I use it, sometimes she uses it.
But like companies like.
My grandmother pays for the insurance because she uses the car too. We both own the cars in both of our names, but she pays for the insurance.
They're all just dumping billions of dollars into self-driving. Because they're trying to come up with an adequate way. Like even Amazon now has UPS. It's a barcode you can put in your door. So when it gets dropped off, you can scan the door and drop the package and shows it to your house. So they're trying to make it so that you don't, like you've got no people involved in the logistics side. That's why their warehouses are highly automated. I mean, even one of the locations in,
Absolutely. The question is, A, is there a place to put your bicycle?
like it's
And B, do you really want to bike to work every day, considering you'd be biking on the side of the
So
highway?
they made a conscious effort to become
I mean,
automated,
I don't judge if you want to bike on the side of the highway.
right? So they took orders.
I discourage it, but
So what happens
I
is you
don't
order
judge.
online to the print shop. You can automatically sends it, like you arrange it in like a PDF, like online. It's on it, it's sent to a server into a print queue. Automatically determines what paper it's using, what type of print you're doing. Automatically sends it to one of the, I think they use an HP Indigo printer, which is not your home printer. Which then when automatically printed, it would be boxed and shipping label automatically as it leaves the printer and it's
Zoom in.
skid. An automated, like it was like a drone
in
with
there,
forks
what do you see?
would periodically come by after it's alerted by a sensor.
Beside it?
Come by, scoop up this skid of printed material that was already
Down.
on the label.
Move
and
the
then
mouse down.
arrange it into
Yep.
an
Right
array
there.
on their floor
Nope, down there.
until
No, don't move down.
UPS or whatever, I don't know who they use for shipping,
Put your
would
mouse
come
up.
by, and then it would just line it up.
A little
so
bit
they just
more.
load it into the trucks.
A little bit
All
more.
automated, didn't require any
A little bit
people for that.
more. Stop.
You just
What's
eliminated,
that?
you eliminated your
That's a
print
train track
operator,
button.
you eliminated
And I'm-
your warehousing guys, you eliminated your graphic designer,
Just a train
you
track.
eliminated your salespeople.
That's what I'm gonna do.
But that's all robotics, isn't it?
It is, but this is just like for a print company, like not the company you would expect to have all this high technology.
Yeah.
And then it's also another thing that's happening to eliminate
I
the
saw the buy
warehousing costs.
train.
Is basically you could have, and I said, where they're basically like, you're just drones
You
that
know
have
what? I'm a
forklifts
people's person.
built into
And I love
them.
you.
So basically, you just have to, when you're shipping to this company, you have to make sure you have a barcode on the side of the skid. The barcode identifies what's on the skid. So the truck driver shows up, opens up the truck, then goes in, loads,
No truck.
scans it, automatically assigns it to a place in the three-dimensional array on the rack, goes off, places it, adds it into your inventory system. When it needs to be pulled, it automatically knows where to get it from, automatically goes off, pulls it off the skid, brings it to you.
Yes.
Like,
I can't believe
there's
it.
no
Maybe the reason I'm running for mayor. Actually, the election's.
Yeah.
I want to find out what is going on there. What's the, how is it done behind the scenes, right?
I mean, it's like,
What are they using? Like, what did they do? Like, it's fascinating, right?
yeah, because forklifts are already battery powered, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. Like,
well, no, because all you have to do is, so yeah, normally in a warehouse, you have to tape out lanes, basically, where people, oh no, like a walk. Like if you go to a large kind of postal, for example, like they have an area where forklifts go or motorized vehicles.
Oh,
you have where you're
cockroach.
supposed to walk in between tape lines. What they did was make it so this tape
I thought
line
you said
can be
cockroach.
scanned as the forklifts are going along. Right, so the forklift always knows where it is, so it just casually moves to the location, when it hits like a certain scan point, it will stop. So it knows that it's lined up with the right place in the inventory, moves forward, places it to a certain height, because rack height is predetermined.
what are these programs? Which language is used to write all these?
Oh, I have no idea what language it is.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they, like, whoever is doing it, like, what are they using, right?
But like the coding itself is not as complex as you would think.
Yeah.
It's just simple conditional checks.
Checkings,
Go
yeah.
from one checkpoint to
And your
another.
friend
As
touches it?
long as you're able to scan,
Your friend.
Yeah.
you stay in your lane, and you can communicate with the
What
other,
is she on?
technically they're drones, then you just don't have them hit you.
It does fascinate me sometimes, it would be nice to kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, so basically that eliminates just so many jobs.
Yeah, it does eliminate.
And then if you get like, the self-driving trucks, there's already been a self-driving truck that drove across Europe, everything was fine. There was it just drove across all of Europe, no hands on the wheel.
Oh my God.
And it back into a bay. If you can have that with the automated warehouses, where do people work?
Exactly.
You have like one person who acts as a controller in case anything goes wrong.
Goes wrong.
And
But
everyone becomes
machines are still
unemployed.
machines, but I don't know, like,
The only way you're going to do well is if you just own one of those factories somehow.
Too much automation will take away jobs from people, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's absolutely going to happen because, like, when you hear about things like, you know, McDonald's now has like the automatic ordering thing.
Yes, yes.
And there's the argument that, oh, higher minimum wage is gonna drive automation. It doesn't matter because humans are never gonna be cheaper than electricity,
Did I?
right?
Oh.
So you just have to figure out a way that people can just.
And I wonder how long does it take to write programs like this and make them perfect? It takes years to write programs and make them perfect,
That's why
right?
they bring out outside companies that specialize, right? They
Yeah.
create these packages. So their code base is already good. Their mission is just to like come in, design the warehouse, tape it all out, and then it becomes like a self-run thing, and then you just have a subscription to them in case anything goes wrong.
Maybe after I retire, I'll start at the minimum wage in one of these companies and learn this stuff, you know, because it is fascinating. Like you can think about it, but you really have to work with it to get that experience. So teaching is something different, but
Yeah, because all these technologies, they're based on subscriptions. So even like we use something called a Xerox iGen 4 Diamond, and we had another Xerox iGen. They're very, very large printers. But when you bought them, the money that Xerox makes wasn't on the printer.
It was on
the ongoing maintenance.
Maintenance,
So you basically get like a service subscription to them. And it was about $8,000 a month per print.
I told you.
oh my God,
And that's how
Manuals do not go
they
in banks.
maintained their revenue stream.
right.
So, but then they lock you into like the
Get them to mail
Xerox
out.
environment. So all of our printers are Xerox. We have Xerox,
Yeah.
we had some wide format
There
printers.
are a reason why
Because it's
tomatoes
just
go in
more cost
sandwiches.
effective. So you get
not
locked into
bagels.
platforms.
Platforms, yeah. Okay, guys, let's do the next one now. I want to work with binary files now. So text files are human readable. We were able to create one. We were able to see one. And if we needed to print it, I could have just added another open and read from it, and it would have improved that it works. It will. It's just a text file. It's not that because the program was made in Python that I can't read from this file. The file that I just created, this one that I just created, if you want to read from it, all you do is open the file, read, and then print like you did before. Right? So text files can be created by hand, in the sense of just using a text editor program. They can be created using a Python program. They can be read using a Python program, or they can also be read by human eye, just by opening. Right? So text files are easy, like they are meant for human beings. Right? But as I said, this file that got created, I opened it in my folder to show it to you. But if I wanted to do it, all I had to do was I just open it here. So now read the file back. And there are simple things you have to do. You have to open it, you have to read it. So if I kind of take what I had done before here, and I mean, then it really doesn't matter what it is. I say must close it, but I didn't close it here. Can you imagine? And it was not causing any problems in reading. It doesn't cause a problem, but the aim is to kind of always close your files. So if I want to read it back now, I mean, you can use the same name, really doesn't matter what you use. Input and output just kind of makes sense when you read it. So if we want to read it back, all I do is I read the file back. So I'll remove the extra ones. So the file was now called studentnames.txt. So change the name of the file. There's nothing big in it at all. I mean, I opened it in Notepad or TextPad. You can read the entire contents. I mean, just for the, I can remove this. What does it have? It has student data, student names, right? And then just print the contents. But remember, it was good if we could print them. Yeah, they were already in one line, right? And close the file. I've used the same name because, I mean, it makes more sense. So here, open the file, studentnames.txt in the read mode, read the entire contents, and then just print them out. So if I do this and I kind of run the program, oh, this is the name for, we appended two names and oh, it's waiting for the end. There it is. Right? So simple program. Now the only thing that you have to think about is these are all strings. So if I want to work with numbers, which I will give you two, then how do I convert strings into numbers, which is again not so tough. Okay, so there will be a small program that I'll do on files and give it to you. I'll try to keep it simple, not ask too much of it, but a little extra from what I have done. And you know it, like strings can be converted into numbers, that extra new line can be trimmed, and the job is done. Okay, now let's go to binary files. Now the binary files, the main difference between binary files and, here. So the main difference between binary files and text files is that binary files are not human readable. And you cannot create them by hand. So I don't have a program where I can say open TextPad and create a binary file, because binary file is limited to being created and used by a computer. Okay, so now we'll do a small example, but I'll show you how it works. Okay, now to use binary files, you will have to import a module called shelf. Okay, and again, I repeat again, these imports that you do, they are actually just .py files, nothing else. They're just .py files with code. When you import them, you're basically saying, I'm going to use what's in them. And what is in them? Some methods or whatever, right? So the package is called, not the package. The module is called, we call it packages in Java. The module is called shelf, and I've just imported it to use for binary files. Okay, let's do some job. And let's create a binary file. And in a binary file, no mode is required. You can read, write, append all at the same time. Like it doesn't matter. You can add, if you want to write something, you use the write statement. If you want to read from a binary file, you use the read method, and that's all that is required. You don't have to open it in a particular mode. Okay, so let's try to, so no mode is required in a binary file. So once you open it, you can read or write. Okay, so let's see how we do it. So again, you can give it whatever name you like. It really doesn't matter. I'm just calling it a shelf file. I'm going to create a file first, of course, because I can't do it myself. So I have to create it through a program. So I'm going to create a file, and you can call it whatever you like again. Usually we do not give a extension with this file. You will notice when I run this program, by default, 3 files are created. mydat.dir, mydat.dat for data, and there was a third one called mydat. I forget, res or result, something. It automatically creates 3 files. So you don't give an extension when you create binary files, because they don't, like, they're just special kind of files, right? If it was a py file, I would have called it .py. If it was a document file, I would have called it .docx. If it was a text file, I could have called it .text, but you don't. So you'll see when I finish it, you will see what 3 files get automatically created. Now, again, I could put a while loop if I like in here, and then add data to my file, but just to keep it simple, and because we have time constraints, I'm going to create a list of names. Let me know if my spellings are wrong. There. So I've just created a list of names, right? Which means, can I save you can save anything in a file, guys. Even in a text file, you can save a list, you can save a dictionary, you can save a dictionary of lists, you can save a list of dictionaries, any combination, anything can be done, or whatever. Of course, you can save simple variables, okay? So there's no restriction of what you cannot save in a text file, except objects. You cannot save objects in a text file, because objects are a special nature and they can only be saved in binary file. So you cannot save objects, because objects, remember what I said, are data and methods associated with it. So for those, you have to use binary files, but otherwise I could have saved this list in my text file, no big deal. Okay, so I've just created I've just created some names. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it with a key. So I'm going to create a structure. This is just names that I've created, but I'm going to save the names with a key. I'm going to create a dictionary structure kind of, okay? Okay, so let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this shelf file. Binary files, I just have to kind of keep referring because as I haven't done it a lot. So I'm going to say, and again, just one simple example. The key is called names, and in the names field, I'm going to save the student names. Which means you can save, you can kind of create a dictionary structure with key values, and so on. Right? This is just a simple example just to show you how it works. And once the job is done, I have to close the file. And again, I'm doing hard-coded data. You could have read the keys and values from the user and then saved them in the file. So if you kind of think of it, I've created a dictionary structure like you did for your assignment 3, except it's a little different. It says names, and then it has a list of names. You had a list of marks, right? So you could have saved a student name and a list of marks with it, a student name and a list of marks with it. You could have done assignment 3 using binary files or using text files. It could have been done either way. Okay, I'm going to close the file, and the close file is just the close the file. And there is it. So this is, I'm just showing you that it's a file. Like it will get created. But what I want to show you is you won't be able to make a lot out of the contents of this file. So let's save it, and oh, I should have put it in a try catch, I'm sure, if I don't use the right name, but this is being created. You always create binary files, but it is always a good idea to put everything in a try catch. So I'll take this and I'll indent it. And indentation should be somewhere, indentation. And then of course your accept. If you don't know what kind of exception will occur, oh, I should have seen it during the break, I forgot. You can always print out the message, as I said. There is an exception class, which is kind of the parent of all classes, right? And you can just make it like without also will do, and with the word exception will also do, and print. And I'm thinking, how can you print the message? I forget. You know what? I just forgot about it in the break time. Otherwise, I would have done it. Print exception message in Python. I mean, I need to know the method. How to print an exception in Python, how to get exception message. It's in Stack Overflow. I would like to go to documentation. It always, I'm kind of more. I mean, Stack Overflow is not a bad one. ex.message, it is saying that's Java. Same thing. Let's see. So it says exception as ex and then ex.message. Oh, okay. Let's try that. It's the same way that we do in Java then. Gave it a name, but the word as has to be given. So that's not what I was doing. I was giving it without a name. So let's say as ex and then say ex.message. If we get a syntax error, we'll know. Was message a method? No, it's just that. I mean, it could be wrong. I noticed you can get via message field like this. You know what? Therefore, it's always better to use documentation. This is a 2.7.5. I don't see the module 3 one. Okay, it will give us some idea. Exceptions. Zero division, okay, how do we catch them? Handling exceptions, except value error. Oops, that's our own printing. Oh, just because it has come up, you can catch more than one errors together. And you can kind of, oh, pass is a word. Okay, let us see if I can. Sys.exinfo. Okay, let's try that one. If I get a syntax error. So there are ways of doing it. I mean, I'm doing it how I know it from the other languages. Let's see if it works. We'll get a syntax error otherwise. Okay, the file was created. You'll say how? Let's see. Now, if you go back here, notice, I want to bring to your notice, there it is, my data.dat, which isn't too bad, but let me open it for you. It won't know how to open it, so I'm going to open it using TextPad. Not bad. You can see that it has Anju, Ian, Bradley, and Joel, but look at the other control characters it has. Now, if it was a big file, who would kind of take care of these control characters? So God knows what these control characters are, right? But it has created 3 files. From what I understand and what I've read, it creates 3 files. Oh, the backup, it's called back. And in the back file, if you open it, it's not too bad. I think it tells you that it has created a key called names. And I think 54 is the size of your list, if I'm not mistaken. I'm guessing, right? That's what it is. Does it look like 54? Let's see. No, it doesn't look like 54 to me. With all those names, they are not that big. So 1, 2, 3. No, that doesn't look like 54. So I don't know what it is then. Maybe 54 bytes. No, but even 54 bytes, they're just characters. So we don't know what it is in. So what I'm trying to say is with binary files, you can guess, but you don't know what they are. So now you will say, oh, okay, a binary file is created. You've put some names in it. What if I want to now work with it? Definitely, you will have to read it back. So how do you read it back now? So let's read it back. So read back the contents now. So I'll just do this, and then we can kind of put numbers or whatever in binary files and see what happens. Can we work them in numbers? So binary files are, it's not that, oh, binary files are not used, only text files are used. They're both quite common, right? Binary files and text files are both quite common in all languages. The difference is text files are human readable and we can handle them. And binary files are not human readable, and so handling them is all through the code. Okay, so now let's read back now. So we'll again open the file. Again, as I said, we don't need any mode, right? No mode. It will automatically, you can do a read and a write from it. I'm opening the file. Why do I open the file? So that I have the file pointer to, just to show you the type of this file. I'll show you what the file of the type of the file. I'll just do a print for you, because this is how I've learned how to see in Python what are the various types that come out, and it helps, right? So to see the type, I'll just say file type, just so that we see something, right? And then I'm going to do, you can do a plus, you can do a comma, whatever works. And I'm going to use the type function again of the shell file. One more. Okay, just so that we know what the file is. Okay, now I want to just show you what it is so that you know before I go on further. So it kind of says DB file name shelf, which doesn't give a lot of information to us at all, right? So all I can do is I'll read from it, and then we'll see what is the type of its contents. So take the contents again, or if you like, you can just, and I've learned something from doing it, but I'll show it to you, or I'll just do a print straight away. Oh, why not? And to read from a file, you have to, I mean, since I've already done it, I know it. The contents of the binary file are like a dictionary, right? So they have key, value, key, value, key, value. And this was not easy to find because, of course, if I just do the contents and print them out, so I had to kind of work with it a little, which of course Google and stuff like that. And it tells you that what comes out of a binary file is basically a dictionary. Why? What did I do if you kind of think of it? I created a key here, and then I associated the names. So what is it? It is a type of a dictionary, right? So I'll show it to you. So I'm going to just do the contents and to, but the only thing is, I know they're called keys and values. So, okay, let's do it this way then. Let's do it this way because I've already figured it out. I'm telling you, okay? So I'm going to print the keys. And again, I'll show you something. So it's a list that, it's a dictionary that comes out. And I'm going to print the values. Remember these methods? We have already done these methods in the list, in the dictionary. But also there is another thing, they don't look very neat, and I'll show you how to make them neat also. So let's do an F5 again. So here it says, oh, there is a keys view and there is a values view. So I had to kind of course, you have to look up things when you work with files. And again, this didn't make a lot of sense. It says, what is it trying to tell me? It's a DB file name shelf object. And again, to kind of make it human readable, I use the list function to convert whatever you have into its type. You can see all these types if you're interested. There. And now I'll run it for you. There, right? So when I show it as a list, it's showing me names, which is the key. When I say show me the values, it is again giving me a list. And because the data inside was also a list, it is coming as a list. So what does the list function do? The list function converts whatever contents you have into a list. So this is just the square brackets are coming because I've used the list function. And I wanted to show the data. And this was the only way, this was one of the ways, the way I found to show the data. There could be more, right? So what have I shown? I've shown you the names. So that's the key for your information. And I've shown you the values. So that's how I have saved data in my binary file. But that's the only way I can do it. I cannot create these files on my own. I cannot read them by human eyes. I cannot. There has to be some way of storing this data, right? So again, much more can be done. Of course, much more can be done. But this is an easy way of doing it. So what did I do? There is no read and write here. The writing is done by creating a key, and the reading is done by doing keys and values, which means something. Do you remember the items method? You can now use the items and kind of show them. So if you remember, there was a for, we could have used a for loop. I'm just going to say key, comma, values. What is it in? And what is that shelf file? Dot items. So this is how you write to a file, to a binary file, right? And this is how you read from a binary file, is my understanding. As I said, this is one way I found out. Maybe there are other ways also, right? So now if I do this, and now you can print it. You can say print. You have to kind of do the same thing I did here. We'll have to say list K. Right? You can put a colon if you like. Oh no, not without the. And then you can say, give me a list of V. And close it. Does it look okay? Looks okay. Let's see. Oh, doesn't look too pretty. What did it do to my keys? It broke it up into NAMES because I used list on it. That's strange. What should I do now? How can I not? Can I just use K without it? See, here it was okay when I used the list function because it's a list. It just came like this. But when I used it on the key, it broke it up into characters. I didn't use the items one. I just thought, oh, it will work the same way. So this is looking neat enough. But this is looking odd. So if I don't want this, I can try. But I don't know, then I have to look for something else. And of course, the bracket is not necessary. Oh, that way. Okay, so we don't have to convert it into a list when I'm using items, when it is retrieving it. So that's something I just learned. I said, oh, if key and values are working, then all I have to do is take the items out and show the key and values. And notice something else which is neater. This is the key value without anything, right? Like normal, no extra brackets. And this is your data as it was in a normal list. Now I'm going to try it since I'm just intrigued as what will happen here. Oh, I don't even have to use list. It's ignores, you don't have to convert them into list at all. You just say K and V. Like pretty printing, right? Okay, so I didn't try items yesterday when I was working. Of course, I had to know how to work with them, but I didn't try the list here, the items here. But this is much neater. I don't have to convert them into this if I'm using the items method. It automatically picks it up and puts it. Which now means what? If you wanted, you could put names, you could put marks, and you could do more stuff with it. So your first line could be name of the student, and then your second line could be the marks of the student. Again, the name of the students, the marks of the student. And when you pick them up, you have to be careful what you're picking up. So the first read will pick up the name. The second read will pick up the marks. Again, name, again, marks. So you can manipulate it any way you like. So if I wanted to create a binary file and the contents of the binary file were like this, name in my first one, or I mean, I can associate it. I mean, I just associated it. So with my student name, so I take my name and then I associate my marks with it in whatever number of assignments. It could be less, it could be more, right? I take the second student, I associate his or his marks. Maybe he only did 3 like this, and I can keep doing this. And this can be in a loop. Take the student name, take the list of marks, like you've done in assignment 3, student name and marks. And then read them once, KV, KV, KV. Again, you can do math on this and you can do math on this. Right? This is telling me I can create a structure, like I can create a dictionary structure inside a binary file. Right? So there's no end. Like if you kind of start thinking about it, you can say whatever you like in a file. So your binary file is actually a dictionary object. Okay, so my assignment, I'll do text files just because it's more, you can kind of check things are happening the correct way. But with binary files, it's a little difficult because you have to create and write, but it's not as if it's not doable. I just did something. I took a list of names and I added the key names to it. Right? So binary files in Python seems like have a dictionary structure. That's what they have. So you can say binary files in Python. All it told me was DB something, right? So there is a binary file right here. There is a binary file, create a binary file. How to write a binary file, writing to binary files in Python. Oh yeah, I can show you this one also in the binary mode. I did try one more. I think I have an example how to open a file in the binary mode, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I forget now, but I definitely did it somewhere. I forget now, but I did it. So there are a few things they have mentioned here. Input and there it is, 3-point input and output. Maybe we'll get something more here. Oh, this is fancier printing, which of course I can show you, but I'm looking for binary files. Let's do a search here. There are input and output. Is there a search somewhere? Python, English, documentation. There it is, quick search. API reference, standard library, files. I'm looking for binary. Files. It will kind of give you everywhere where it finds the word file or binary, and I only see file yet. File separate, binary data services. Oh, there is more to it. Okay, guys, there is more to it. Then of course there will be. Here there are modules that will help you to work with it differently. The example I picked up was a really easy one, but the aim was, of course, to show you, not to scare you, that it can be done as being saved in a dictionary structure. I was trying to show you a dictionary structure, so I could save the name and the student, and of course you could read it and do it. So if you just want to change this very quickly, but again, what type of data am I getting? It is a list. So let's see if I can do something with this list. So I've printed it. Can I say You want to do it very quickly? So let's replace this by marks, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's replace this with Anju. So those becomes marks. Okay, so I'm kind of seeing if I can do it. I'm sure I can. It's not a big deal, but I'm trying to see what type of data comes out. Is it a number that comes out, or is it a... And again, this is all playing with, it's all playing with data, nothing else. So I've shown here. Can I do math with it? Let's try this without doing anything else. Okay, so it has given me my name and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a list of marks, right? If it is a list of marks, all I have to do is this. Can I do this now? I can say for mark in V, take a sum variable, make it 0. Oh, there is a sum method in list, is it there? If I can remember correctly, you can say sum becomes sum plus I. Let's see if I get a syntax error. What type of value? It's just an integer. And then when I'm done, I'll just print it. Oh. You do know you can. I'm not sure if you've done in your assignment 3. I saw some of you have done it. You can always, you can always format your output like this. And then you use a percentage, and then you, I mean, there are many ways of doing it. This is one way I found out. And I gave you the assignment. Some seems to be a reserved word, right? Therefore, it's purple. I wouldn't like to use any, so it is a function name. I thought so. And again, see, it's not saying, it doesn't tell anything. Python is really a very, not a strict language. Okay, let's try this. And D just means as an integer, okay? 3D will show it to you in 3 spaces and so on, just to show you. Let's see if I get a syntax error. Oh, I is, sorry, so somewhere wrong. Oh, I is not I is mark. Looks okay now. Let's try. Oh, I still have an error. Type error. Attribute error message. No, this error wasn't. Oh, you know what? Maybe some kind of unsupported operand for plus int and string. So it is a string. Each data is a string, which is kind of odd, but anyway. Another exception occurred, and attribute there has no messages. Okay, so message is not something that is available. We know that. But it is saying you're using it for an int and a string. Okay, so that's a string. So that tells us it is a string, nothing else. This is a string. The V, the list that you have, though I put data in it like this, the whole thing is a string. So if I wanted to do this, what will I do? Convert it into an int? You can try. It's just trying hit and trial. Okay, so we know that message is not working, guys. This doesn't work. So print some error occurred. We usually call them exceptions. Therefore, I don't go to stack or like usually, because people are asking. It could be right or it could be wrong. Let's see if I can do this. So total is an integer, converted it into an integer, showed the total. Let's try this. So this way you will learn what's coming out of it. Oh, some exception occurred. Oh, but why is it running with the names still? Okay, so something I've done wrong. Okay, see it with me, guys, quickly. So I have some student marks. I have in the Anju, I assigned the student marks. I opened it again. I showed the values. I showed the keys. Where are names coming from? Do you see something that I don't see? Oh, is it appending to it? God knows. Okay, let me try that. You know what? It is appending to it. I'm going to delete these files because I could see the old names. I could see the old names that I was using before. So let's try again. So binary files are not that easy to work in the sense it needs more work. Text files are so human readable that you can do it. Let's try that. Okay, so where are we? Yep, it works here. You see 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. Now what does it make me believe? That both the keys and the values are strings. So I have to convert it into an int. I just said an int and it started to work. Same with text files also actually. It's the same concept as text files. So now it means you can read a student number, you can read the marks, the same assignment that you had done before. Now instead of just putting it in a dictionary, you can put it in a binary file. And once you have them in the binary file, then you can just keep reading one at a time and do your math with it. And the best part is your data is saved forever till you delete the file, of course. Right, till you delete the file. But the only thing that I have to read up, which I can't right now, is it was saving the previous contents also. Notice it had those names. I had to delete those files to put it. So by default, it is just adding more to it.
It doesn't overwrite it. It must be overwritten.
There has to be, like, there has to be a kind of a clean or something command. But anyway, so that's the binary file. Not bad. So you created a dictionary. Instead of using a dictionary, you saved your data inside a file. So I just did it for one. Of course, that's not the only way. And I used hard-coded data, but you would do exactly what you were doing in your assignment 3. Same program will work, but instead of adding it to the dictionary, updating the dictionary, you will write to the file. That's it. And it will stay there forever. Now, of course, if I open the file from the wherever, which is this one, and open it using TextPad, look, no clue what it is. Therefore, we say binary files are not human readable. So you will say, then what will I do? Shouldn't I be doing this using a text file? You could have. I mean, it's not that I'm saying you can do it using a text file, but I wanted to show you how to use a binary file. And binary files are not human readable. Right? And now we know that how do text files work and how do binary files work. So you could create a whole file in which you save your data, and then you can import that. So when you save the data, you can just import it into another file and use it. You can create a .py file. All these modules that you're using actually are nothing but .py files for your information. If I have time, I had done something for you, but I'm not sure if I have enough time to quickly do it for you. Let me do it quickly. How many minutes do I have? 8 minutes. Okay. I'm going to create a module for you, okay? And then you can import it wherever you like it. It's just something that I read about, and I'm going to use the pprint. I'm not sure if you remember it, but I've used it once before when we were doing dictionaries. It prints it in a pretty manner, okay? So what I'm going to do is this. Very quickly, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create some students here. And I'm going to create a list of dictionaries. You haven't seen a list of dictionaries, but it's not a big deal. It's just a data structure. Okay. And in each dictionary, I'm going to put the key name and put somebody's name in it. And I'm going to add another element. I'll call it mark. And I'll give it 88. Let's do it out of your total mark, okay? I'm going to copy this dictionary contents and kind of replace them here and here. So it's a list of dictionaries. And let's replace some names by, let's give Ian 90. Let's give
It's like
10. Not that bad. Let's give him 80. Hayden has worked quite a bit. Let's give him just close to Ian, 91. One more. That's it. You're at par. Okay, there it is. So the lowest is, you know what? I don't want to give Joel the lowest. I'll go 75. There. Okay, there. So here we have now look at something what I have created. I've created a list of dictionaries. You've never seen this, but I'm creating again just hard-coded data. Just hard-coded data, nothing else, right? Just to show you. And as I said, this was interesting what I saw, and I said, why not? And now I'm going to save this as a pretty string in a file. I'm going to create a file object, just calling it file object now because I'm going to open a file, and you can call it whatever you like, but look at what I'm going to do. Did I create already students? I can't remember. Module names are usually small case. So I'm going to call it my students, okay? You've noticed all of them are lowercase, but .py. And I'm going to open it in the write mode. Why am I creating a .py file? Because I can import this into another program and I can work with it. I'll show you. Okay, and I'm going to do a write very quickly. And in the write, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to say students. And notice it's a kind of a key I'm creating is equal to, and put a plus here, and the pprint module, and it will convert it into a string. The p format converts it into a pretty string, like pprint for printing, p format for this. And just to be, because I couldn't find the \n was working properly. Okay, let's see if I've done things properly. So I created a student's whatever. I mean, you could have called it anything because it really doesn't matter. I created a file called mystudents.py, and then I just wrote something into it in a pretty format. The plus was just to put a new line, and then I close the file. So file object, but it's not the right place to import it. But I'm going to do an import right here itself of this file called my students. Like I can do the import wherever I like. I can take this and put it in a new file and do it for you. Really doesn't matter, but since we don't have that much time, I'm going to do a print, and now I can access it. I can say print my students. That's the name of the module. I'm going to do a Control-C because I'm going to write it many times. It's just a module, right? So take your module, show me the students of it. And remember, I've already kind of given it students is equal to here. So wait, so take my module again and show me who is at position 0. Take it again. So this import can go into a different file altogether, but as I said, I'm just showing it to you so that give me the name of it. Oh, sorry, name. Name is a key. It's a list of dictionaries. I can do whatever I need from it. If you want to see the mark of student 0, so I'm showing you all my marks, all information about myself only. And here I'll replace it with mark. What else can I do? Of course, you could have put it in a try catch, but that's okay. It's not a, like, I mean, as I said, I'm just trying to do things. Okay, so now the only thing I'm thinking is when I write this and I put it as a string, do I have to say students is equal to? I'm going to try something. Why did I do? Is it necessary? If I just say pprint p format and put this as a string. Okay, let's see. It's a normal text file. So let's see what happens. Oh, I didn't even save it. Show import. Okay, let's try to run it and see if I have a problem. Invalid syntax. Oh, commas are missing. Forgot my commas. There. Okay. Control S, F5. Invalid syntax. Oh, what doesn't it like here? Oh, the dot. Sorry. Oops. Object oriented. Attribute error. My student has no attribute students. So that's why I had to give it a name. Sorry, let me try it again. Let me look at the error. I must have got this error and therefore I had to figure it out. Attribute error. My students has no attribute students. So that was my students.py. Oh, that's why we had to put it an attribute here. What is it called? And you could have called it anything, but I chose to call it students just because it made sense. So this is its attribute. Now I get it. I must have. I mean, when I try something and you don't get an error, you definitely have to. Now there is an attribute called students inside it. And now I can say, show me the students, show me students at 0, show me students name, show me students mark. I should be good now. Let's give it a try again. Again, an attribute error. My student says no students. Okay. Students. Students is okay now. Somewhere, oh, here, this is a mistake here, and there is a mistake here. Anywhere else? Students, 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 students. No. Okay. 5. There it is. So this is the whole list. This is the whole list, which is not like very neat, but then this is me. And then that's my name, and that's my mark. Now, something that intrigued me was, notice how it has switched my name and my mark, and I have no clue why. I don't know. Like, I didn't go into reading a lot about it. Of course, we can all, there is always an answer. But when I did this, just to kind of use it, this is what was happening. So see what I've done. If you kind of think about it, what have I done? I've saved a list of, again, names and mark, a dictionary structure in a text file. And whenever I need it, all I'll do is I'll import it and I can work with it as if I was working with whatever. Right? So again, data has been saved once and then a text file has been created. The only difference is instead of saying .text, I made a .py so that I could import it. Once you import it, you can use any data that's inside the file. So there are so many ways you can store data in a file and read it. I could give you this too and say here, now it has a name and it has a mark, or instead of a mark here, I can have a complete list here. You can have any data structure and I say, okay, here is your data, read it, find the average and so on and do it. I mean, there is no end to it. There's so many ways. And I only did a couple of examples just to show it to you. And I found this neat that now that it's here, all you have to do is you can import this file and use it. So if a file has an extension of .py and it has data in it, all you do is import it. And of course, you have to know the structure. It is important that you know what is inside it and what did I call it. I called the attribute students, but it won't work without it. So that's what the attribute was called. So when I tried it without it, just writing it, that's the error I got, and therefore I put it. Right? So you live and learn is the main thing. So we did text files, we did binary files, and I kind of showed you how to create a module in Python using files. So now my aim is to give you a simple program in which at least you can open a file, read from a file, and do processing with the contents of the file, and maybe print your results to another file. Instead of on screen, print your results to another. So I'll make a very small, simple assignment, not tough, a simple assignment, so that you just practice it. Because if you practice it, then you can't complain if it comes in the final exams. Okay, but keep in mind your ifs, your whiles, your fors, everything can be used anywhere as you. So programming is not saying, oh, I've done this and it's done. In the final exam, your course is everything. You should know how to do everything, to write a for loop, to write a while loop, to write an if statement, to make use variables and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of thinking mix of Small coding, maybe not write a whole program because people can't think a lot. Write this, write a function, and so on. I haven't thought about it. Really, I'm living by the day, to be very truthful, with Python, depending upon how my class is doing. Okay, but this assignment, I'll make it ready by this weekend. And I'll give you maybe 3-4 days for it so that I can mark it also for you. Okay. Okay, so all this I'll put on Blackboard so that you have it. So this way at least you have it, and then there is, so it's Wednesday today. And we are in week 12. Oh God.
I know.
Kind of only 1 week to go because the last week is your exam week. Okay, let's browse my computer and get your stuff going. So Python courses, Python, you are Wednesday. And thankfully, I put everything in files so I can give you all of them. I gave you this. My students.py. Oh, my students.py got created. Okay.
Why do you keep getting scared? Why do you keep getting scared?
Sorry, like, have you talked about, but I skipped that. So, what is the main purpose to create a binary file? So,
Oh, when you want to save objects, then you can do it in text file.
oh, okay, yeah.
And you deal with objects all the time in the object-oriented world, right?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Raiden.
So testing services has the,
The result, they'll email them. So did you do it on Scantron today? Okay, so I'll have to pick it up then. Okay.
yeah, I asked them for a Scantron card, so I just got, did the read and write, and then I wrote it down.
Yeah, because I told them Scantron would be easy. I'll pick it up right away then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.